Welcome back. It's 10 after the hour. According to the CDC, heart disease, cancer, and stroke are the top killers in the U.S. The hidden factor behind many of them, poor sleep health. Ashley Kirkland has more on the topic and what can be done to help in her special report, Good Night, Good Day.
Sleep deprivation actually leads to higher rates of obesity. Obesity leads to sleep apnea or breath holding at night. But breath holding at night, in a vicious sort of circle, generally tends to have people eat more during the day.
In addition to obesity, this vicious cycle can lead to depression, plus a host of chronic diseases, including diabetes and hypertension. But we may not realize the problem right away.
If you have to use an alarm to get up every morning to go to work, you're probably restricting your sleep.
According to the CDC, 1/3 of Americans suffer from sleep deprivation. Other research from the National Sleep Apnea Foundation finds that 18 million Americans suffer from sleep apnea, a disorder in which a person stops breathing for a period of time during sleep.
It's usually people that are feeling really tired during the day, or people that can't sleep at night will come in and have a sleep study to see if they can't figure out a reason why.
While I don't suffer from sleep apnea, constant fatigue during the day also left me wanting more answers of my own. So I went in for a sleep study.
First night of the sleep study, I am about to begin. They have to put all of the entrapments on me. Now, just a little bit of background. I usually sleep 4 to 5 hours at night.
Nurses hooked me up to several wires that would monitor the patterns of my breath, brain, and pulse while I was sleeping. Then it was time for some shut-eye.
We'll see you in the morning. Night. Okay, so I just woke up from 10 hours of sleep. I was finally able to get to sleep at around 11:30 p.m. and overall, it was a pretty restful night. I think my main problem was the wires. I couldn't get comfortable. I did toss and turn a little bit, but I don't know if I ever went into REM sleep. So now we're going to take off the wires and we'll see the results.
Well, we are going to check out those results with Dr. Sari, who is the sleep study doctor here, and he's going to talk to us a little bit more about what he saw in my sleep study. But for right now, I am joined by Jason Hausman, and Jason is the sleep study manager here at Marquette General, and he was here on site that night that I did the sleep study. Jason, this is a common thing that you guys use to see if people have issues as far as sleep apnea. Talk to us about the sleep studies.
Okay. Usually what the patient does is once they get a referral from their healthcare provider, they come to us. They spend about 10 hours here at night. They usually come in around 9 p.m. and then they're here till about 7 a.m., of which they probably spend about 7 hours sleeping.
Okay. Now you say that people don't necessarily have to come in for a sleep study. What would be some clear indicators that they need to come in to have a sleep study done?
Obviously they want to check with their healthcare provider, but usually people that have daytime fatigue, their bed partner notices that they stop breathing during the night are usually really good indicators that they should be coming in for a sleep study. Some things that they don't need to necessarily come in for that, again, they should check with their healthcare provider would be people that suffer from insomnia or just doesn't sleep real well. Mm-hmm. There may be other causes that they may not need a sleep study for.
Okay. And there are some questions that I asked Jason, and we're definitely going to ask Dr. Sari a little bit more about those questions. And I got viewer questions as well, so we're going to get to those. As I said, Jason was here to help on site for the sleep study, and if you decide to get a sleep study, you'll probably meet him. But tell people where they can go to learn more about the sleep study if they're interested.
They can always give us a call here at the Sleep Lab or visit us online, mgh.org, or talk to their healthcare provider for more information.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason. And as I said, in the 6:43 mark of the show, we will be back with more from Dr. Sari, who's going to tell me the results of my sleep study, as well as answer some of your questions that we've gotten on Facebook and Twitter. Back to you guys, Vicki. Ashley Kirkland reporting live in Marquette, TV6 News.
All right. Thanks, Ashley. Looking forward to some of those answers.
Well, this morning we've been talking about how having a better night's sleep can help you have a better day and better health. Now, Ashley Kirkland did a sleep study, and she's back at Marquette General Hospital live with the results on that sleep study. Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning, Sam. Well, our sleep health is really important to the rest of our health as far as our cardiovascular and our heart and everything else is concerned. So right now we're back at Marquette General, and we are going to go over the results of our sleep study with Dr. Sari, who is a sleep study doctor. Dr. Sari, thank you for being here so much. You looked over my sleep study and the results. What did you see or what did you find?
You sleep well. You probably have some sleep deprivation in your regular schedule because you went into what we call REM sleep early on. You cycled normally. It actually was a pretty normal sleep study. I didn't see anything there that was very troublesome.
Okay. And can you describe for viewers what REM sleep is?
REM sleep is our active dreaming sleep. We basically have four scored sleep stages. One is N1, which is light sleep, where we just kind of, it's where you're dozing. Then we get into a more steady N2 sleep, as we call it. It's in that sleep where we tend to have some of our breathing disorders, such as sleep apnea. Then we get into deeper stages of sleep, N3, where sleep is very regular. And then REM sleep tends to be where we cycle in and out, and that's kind of active dreaming sleep. We're basically essentially paralyzed at that point in time. We tend to have vivid dreams. Individuals who don't have the paralytic part of it tend to act out their dreams, though that's not very common. It's actually not known what all the stages of sleep do. We need to have N2 sleep in order to feel rested, but the deeper sleep and REM sleep you can be without and still feel fine and function well during the day.
Okay. And so my graph there was, it was just pretty steady, but a person that has sleep apnea, what would their study look like? What would that look like?
Well, typically what we find with sleep apnea is we won't be going into the REM sleep, which is here pointed out by the red lines. Typically what happens is they don't go into the deeper phases of sleep very well. If we happen to start them on CPAP therapy, either during that study or on a subsequent study, what often happens is that they suddenly start cycling and having very long periods of REM sleep, and they have N3 sleep toward the end of the night. Now your study, which told me that you probably have some sleep deprivation, tells you went into REM sleep fairly early, and you also had some persistence of N3 sleep into the last hour and a half of the night. In other words, you should come and sleep in the hospital more often.
Maybe I should. Maybe I can get some sleep if I do that. So we have a few viewer questions because clearly sleep deprivation is a real problem. And a few viewers wanted to know, a common question was if they have abnormal sleep schedules due to work or whatever life changes, how can they get back to a normal sleep schedule?
Well, one thing that sleep specialists recommend is that if you're going to cycle work shifts, that you typically should cycle forward. You should go from a night shift to a day shift to an evening shift. And unfortunately, some companies don't do that. But it's much more physiologic to do that because if you think about it, you can force yourself to stay awake longer most times rather than try and force yourself to get up earlier in the morning. Like this morning was a struggle for me because I don't ordinarily get up at 10 to 4. So cycling forward tends to be helpful. If an individual is working night shift, one of the things that we strongly recommend is on their way home, they avoid light exposure. They should put dark glasses on. They should walk into the house and try and keep the lights at a minimum. Their bedroom should be very dark. It should be quiet. You can have a background noise, perhaps like a fan. Some people will wear both earplugs and eye covers so that they don't let light in. Light is the thing that tends to drive our circadian rhythm. It tends to be the arousal mechanism. In fact, when people use melatonin at night to try and, let's say, reset their night sleep schedule, they should really take the melatonin about an hour before they plan on going to bed because melatonin is our dark signal. It's the time that the brain actually releases that compound to try and help us sleep and consolidate sleep.
And speaking of the brain, I know that another hot topic question was, could sleep apnea or sleep deprivation lead to memory loss?
Oh, sleep deprivation leads to inattentiveness. It can lead to memory loss. The problem with people that sleep poorly is it probably increases the risk of weight gain, diabetes, heart disease, stroke. This is particularly the case in people with obstructive sleep apnea, probably because of the superimposed drop in their oxygen levels. It's really quite amazing how low some people's oxygen levels go with obstructive sleep apnea. When 30 years ago I was involved in some of the studies about pulmonary hypertension, which is the stress on the vessels leading to the lung relative to sleep apnea, we would see people drop their oxygen saturations down to the 40 or 50% range, similar to what it's like for people climbing high mountains such as Everest without supplemental oxygen, which requires some training and can cause some damage. There's a famous pulmonary doctor named Dr. West, and they said he never quite wrote the same degree of excellence in his papers after he had climbed Everest without supplemental oxygen. So lack of appropriate levels of oxygen and lack of appropriate sleep can certainly make your daytime functioning worse.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sari, for being here, and thank you for interpreting those results for me. And if you are having trouble with sleep apnea, possibly, or sleep problems, period, there is help for you. So on the screen right now, there is a few websites where you can find help, including right here at MGH Hospital. So make sure to click on those websites and head to those websites to see how you can get help for your sleep deprivation or sleep apnea. Your TV6 Morning Show will be right back.